he could have set last night against a crappy Blazers team. Right. I'm cool with you saying he needs to sit because he's listed in the league injury report as rehabbing a torn patellar tendon.
Right.
That's cool. He can rehab. That. That's fine. He's okay to miss games, but he could have set against the crappy team and actually played against the good team.
Right.
The podcast. I'm Amber Ennis, and Ben is going to pick us up.
All right. So welcome, everybody. It's good to see everyone. I haven't seen a couple of you guys for a bit, but welcome. So we're going to jump into it. I'm going to, again, the way that I always jump into it. Again, I'm terrified of what's going to happen in February, and I freeze and not know how to start a podcast. But the NFL happened this week. There's a bunch of stuff that happened. My Broncos won a game.
Oh,
I'm like stoked and excited about that. I mean, I know it's the Browns, but you know what? When you're not good and you win a game.
As someone who lived in Arkansas when Brandon, I was saying, as someone who lived in Arkansas when Brandon Allen was playing for the Razorbacks, I'm extremely shocked they won a game.
It's
Does
amazing.
It kind of winning if you beat the Browns, though? That's my question.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But you have something, Brian?
Oh no, she said, "Does it count if you beat the Browns?" And it's like, well, this week it better.
Yeah. But no. So the thing that kind of caught me is quarterback, and I remember now. Yes, as a Homer fan with optimism going into the season, when people said, "Oh, the Broncos have no," I'm like, no, we've got Philip Lindsay is good. Cortland Sutton is an up and coming. At the time, Emmanuel Sanders. Look at that. It's like, no, we're not a bad team. We're just lacking in certain areas. And I think that's kind of what showed Sunday. It's like, no, we're not a bad team. We just had a quarterback who couldn't care less about winning and actually playing the game. Suddenly you get a quarterback that has a desire to win. A really subtle thing that I absolutely love, and this was like, you know what? I really like this guy. I'm not saying he's going to be the future quarterback. If he's the next Tom Brady and like scares everyone as a low round pick that becomes this, great, awesome, fantastic. That's not what's going to happen. But hey, if it happens, it happens. But what I loved early in the game, he was about to get sacked, or he thought he was about to get sacked, and as soon as he felt people around him, he covers the ball with both hands, like hard, and then he realizes he's not going down, and he takes off running. So it's like, this is a guy that actually prides himself on protecting the ball. Like,
that's because he got sacked about 8 billion times at Arkansas.
Hey, and with our offensive line, we need a quarterback who's capable of getting sacked and not fumbling the ball.
I would prefer a quarterback that does that than ours who runs with it like this and then it's like, oh, I dropped the ball. Well, yes, Dak, yes. You hit it with the defender. Sorry, I'm so mad at him.
Oh, no, that's fine. You're supposed to be. That's why you're on the podcast.
But yes, I would prefer they cover it than this. And lots of quarterbacks do it. They do this one-handed thing where it's out, and I know they're trying to throw it, but when you get sacked, you're not going to hold on to the ball. You're just not.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Brian's quarterback is one of the kings of that. Like,
yes.
He runs one-handed.
I think he has some sort of formal arrangement with the ground that the ground will get custody right to the ball every so often. So, at least 20.
Maybe he's betting on it.
I don't know. But speaking of the like, I know, like, we're not going to go into this whole thing. I'm not going to rant too much about this, but this is as close as a must-win game as a 6-2 team has ever seeing like the Bills need to beat Cleveland in order to be considered something legit. Which even if we beat Cleveland, it's still going to be they were 2-6. But if you lose to Cleveland, it's like it's exponentially worse. It does so much bad if you lose, and only really helps you a little bit if you win. But it's almost like you better win this game for damage control purposes. If you lose to Cleveland, it's like nobody's going to take you seriously.
For example, perfect example of that is the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Oh,
that Jets loss, which it was fluky as all get out, but there's a lot of pushback.
If you win the Super Bowl, or if the Cowboys win the Super Bowl this year, you're not winning the Super Bowl. But if the Cowboys win the Super Bowl this year, at the end of the day, your response, but you lost to the Jets. Like, it will forever taint anything this season does. Win every game here on out, win every game in the playoffs by 30, destroy the AFC team by 40 in the Super Bowl, and you still lost to the Jets.
Jonathan, I'll make you a deal. And I know this is less than 0.1% of possible. If the Bills and Cowboys end up playing each other in the Super Bowl, we will both start a GoFundMe and try to get there. Deal?
Well, remember, the Cowboys are my second favorite team, but yes.
So it's you and Amber.
But Amber,
I will go with you, and we can
good.
just link Jonathan for being a traitor.
That's fine. I will break the Billy Graham rule for the Super Bowl, so you know.
It's a public place, so it's okay.
That's fair. Okay, fair. Public place.
But speaking of awful teams, so how bad are you when you're deliberately trying to lose every game in a season? From the beginning of the season, you start off, even before the beginning of the season, you publicly announce, we're going to lose everything, basically, this season. How horrible are you as a team that you still win a game?
Well,
I don't know if
I feel like
does that really reflect on them, or does that just reflect on how bad the other team?
No. Let's hold on a second. The GM can trade away pieces, but then basically set the team up to not have as much talent in the field. But at the end of the day, those players are still playing as hard as they possibly can, and sometimes effort beats out. And yes, it's not good for the team to win a game because they do want to tank for Tua or tank for whoever. But you can't. You can't put a 25-year-old kid out there, 23-year-old kid out there, say, "Hey, I want you to purposely throw interception." You can't do that. You can.
That's true.
Your talent.
Well, they put the old man in a quarterback this week.
Well, whatever.
Jonathan predicted.
I said they were going to win because you can't leave Ryan Fitzpatrick in and try to lose games because Fitzmagic is a real thing. With that being said, Brian Flores wants to win games.
Yes.
Brian Flores wants to win games. Ryan Fitzpatrick wants to win games. Everyone on that roster, but probably Aqib Talib, who he just wants his paycheck and he wants out of there. But everyone else on that roster probably wants to win games. It's just the management.
I think it's really dumb to try to tank in football, though. One player is not going to make that big of a difference, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How bad they're doing, they're going to have to make a lot of changes to make it up for next year.
Well, and not just, I know it is, one player there, but that's the thing about that number one overall pick, and as anyone kind of looks in fantasy, as you're doing fantasy sports, you know what? There's a time when you kind of want that, it's the last pick because of a snake draft. Why do you want that last pick in the round? Because you're going to be able to get two guys that you would have gotten in the first round. Typically, having that first pick in the second round, you're going to be able to get a first round guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but the thing is if you don't have a franchise quarterback, it is important to have the number one pick.
Yes.
It's important to get the guy that you want. Now, depending on how loaded, 2018 was a loaded class minus Rosen, right? We can all say there were 4 starters, potentially a couple Pro Bowlers in that class. But
if Rosen wasn't shipped to Arizona, that was in flux, and then the Dolphins that are in flux, I think he could have worked out too.
Sure. I think if you gave Rosen a defense and a running game, Rosen could be Chad Pennington game manager. Like, I don't think he's going to be like he could be like just he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. He's a smart guy, but reports are out his attitude was bad. But like you look at Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen.
Whose attitude wouldn't be bad in that situation?
Well, even before that, even when he was
yeah.
So, but it'll be interesting to see. But I don't think it's bad to tank. In the sense of like if you've got a guy targeted, let's say there's an Andrew Luck type generational talent at quarterback coming out in a year, and that if you tried you'd win 5 games. Well, don't try. Win 1 game, win no games, and go get your guy that's going to be there hopefully for the next 10 years. And I know Andrew Luck's not the greatest example of that, but
Well, no, Andrew Luck's a perfect example of that. The Colts sucked.
Yeah,
they just added Luck and were a playoff team.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But even then, they still sucked, and that's why he went up. If Andrew Luck had ended in a good organization, which the Indianapolis Colts, despite winning a Super Bowl, whatever, Jim Irsay is a horrible owner. He's not. The only reason we don't consider Jim Irsay a bad owner is because Jerry Jones exists. If Jerry Jones didn't own the Cowboys, I honestly think Irsay would be almost up there. He's not quite as hands-on as Jerry Jones.
The thing is, everyone who's ever played for Irsay loves him, though. Like, all of the major people who've played for Irsay love him. Like,
I don't know. He's a fantastic person to hang out with because he's higher than you. I'm not saying something, things that we didn't happen. No, this is a guy he's got issues that, he's a rich, so it can work. No, they lucked into Peyton Manning, and everyone always said, "Oh, look how great of an organization." No, you had the number 1 pick when Peyton Manning was available.
When Peyton Manning had that neck in, he had Curtis Painter at quarterback, Orlowski or whoever. They were not a good team. They didn't have a good roster around Peyton at all. Peyton is a lot like Aaron Rodgers in the sense that Peyton covers a multitude of sins, right? Yeah. Like. He covers up. Same with Aaron Rodgers. When Aaron Rodgers goes down last year, they had Deshaun Kaiser or not Deshaun Kaiser. Who was the back? I can't remember. Brent Hundley.
Yeah.
From you. So they had Brent Hundley, and he was a hot pile of dumpster fire. And the Packers were bad and the thing is they're a 12-win team with Aaron Rodgers, and they're a 5-win team without Aaron Rodgers. So it's like if you can get that transcendent quarterback, your franchise will be okay with you sucking for a year because
the Colts are the reason Manning only has 2 Super Bowl rings. And Manning should have, and everyone talks about, Manning. No, Manning had a little bit of John Elway syndrome where he was the only guy that could have ever taken those teams to the playoffs, and that's as far as that he could go. No, that Brady won because Brady had Belichick and had great teams around him. You put Manning on those same teams, Manning is the one with handfuls of rings.
And Manning may very well still be playing because I don't think he would have had such a bad injury.
Right.
Manning's older than you think he is. But.
No, but I'm saying that injury.
Yeah.
You can't. There's not I can kind of try to stay around.
That neck injury definitely took.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the same with Andrew Luck. He's been hurt so bad that he physically cannot right now keep playing. Now he might come back.
Yeah.
But physically right now he can't. And I see it with a lot of quarterbacks. You see a lot of talent and they get hurt, not just quarterbacks, but since we're on the topic. And then you see years go off where I wonder what could have happened had they not had that injury or had they not been at a team that resulted in that bad of an injury.
Calvin Johnson is a perfect example.
Yeah. So you were.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, John.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. So Calvin Johnson is a perfect example of this. Barry Sanders is another example of this. I think it's a combination of how teams handle injuries of their superstars. Because you have a guy like Calvin Johnson and you have a crappy organization like the Lions. If Calvin Johnson was playing for the Patriots, or if Calvin Johnson was playing for, another solid franchise, even like the Broncos, and he knew that he had a healthy organization behind him, he probably wants to come back and play. But I'm not going to go through a year of rehab, and I'm not going to go through all this hell to go play for a franchise that, that doesn't really care about winning. If I'm a competitor and I want to win, if I just need to collect a paycheck, that's one thing. But if you look at these all-time greats that retired early, Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson specifically, but it's like we don't want to play for the Lions, and here's our out. And basically, it's like, okay, these bad run organizations are sucking the life out of these superstars, and it's like this is why guys like Tom Brady, I know he's only been hurt once in his career, can play forever because he's got so much stability around him. It's like Belichick's a rock. Kraft is a rock when he's not being stupid and doing extracurriculars, But yeah, like I don't know. It's just frustrating to see these superstars go away.
So speaking of bad organizations and teams, so the Redskins, we've talked before, and there's a lot of stuff of Snyder being considered one of the worst people ever to own a team, and just not a good person.
Is the worst owner in American pro sports, unless you count like a Vince McMahon.
No, and even then, McMahon as a pro wrestling fan, like as a pro wrestling fan. No, I'm just talking about that. McMahon's got his things, but there's certain McMahon is also can be one of the more. Yes, he can be incredibly vindictive, but he's also can be incredibly forgiving. So, but if we're just talking about like an actual just being not a good guy. We got Snyder in the Redskins, and we talk about horrible organizations. Was it this week it came out that they hid a player's cancer? And as soon as they found out he had cancer, they didn't even cut him, but they positioned it in a way where he can't get any help from the team or anything. What is it, to cover and pay for his, like...
Essentially, they hid it from him. Like, they told him, it's Trent Williams, by the way. Right. I think he's an offensive tackle, right?
Yeah, Pro Bowl left tackle, like a little franchise cornerstone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so he's like, I'm reading it now. They requested a third party to go and look into it because they were mad at him already over. He'd asked 3 times about this growth that he had, and they had told him, it's a cyst. And so he went and he had a knee surgery, and he was like, hey, since we're in this knee surgery, can we just go ahead and cut this off and biopsy it? And they said, no, that needs to wait for the off season. And they pushed it back twice. And so he finally goes out on his own and goes to a doctor, and it's cancer. Like,
but the thing is, it's the type of cancer that now he's going to have to go through a lot more treatment instead of just like cut it off. And that one's pretty bad because if you give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't run tests, so they didn't know for sure, that's still bad because skin cancer tends to it has a certain look to it.
Yeah.
So there's no way that the doctors didn't at least suspect it, and that's what really bothers me. Because my mom even has gone to the doctor before, and he's seen something on her hand, be like, "Hey, this may or may not be skin cancer, but since you're having to, because my parents travel a lot, they'll just look and be like, we can take it off right now if you don't care about the scarring, and they'll do it right then. But then she doesn't have to worry about it, and then they'll biopsy it, but it's gone. Versus. So this should have been a simple thing. Like, this should not have been a big deal. They should maybe have, the first time pushing it back to the offseason, I can see. But the minute the offseason came, it should have been like, hey, we're going to remove that. And instead, they don't do it. And, I don't think they will, but, they could actually have killed somebody.
Well, a question that I wonder, could this, and I know for political reasons, the NFL is not a huge fan of Snyder. I'm not getting into that, whether or not that name is, the team name or anything, whatever, regardless of that. But because of that, the NFL does not like this guy. He's a villain among everything. Could this actually finally be a nail that lets them strip the team from him?
With this, can this be their Donald Sterling moment?
Could this, I mean, this, or not even Donald Trump? I mean, remember, we put that as an extreme. I mean, people have lost their teams for not much.
I mean, this one's bad.
Hold on.
Texans,
Can you
Panthers.
give me another example of an owner that did less that lost their team? I can't think of anything else.
The Texans.
Tillman Fertitta when he lost the Texans.
What did he do? I don't remember.
He owned a casino.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
He owned a casino, and they stripped his team.
I'm just saying
they passed a new rule basically to try to force him to sell his casino.
And then there was someone else.
And now he owns the Rockets because the NBA didn't care.
Well, there was someone, I think, wasn't there an owner in? Oh, maybe it wasn't the Panthers. I felt like there was another owner.
The Panthers or the Jaguars that forced to one of those two, I think, got forced to sell, right?
But I know the Jaguars sold recently. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't take. Yes, it takes a lot, but they find ways, and endangering a guy's life is that very well could be one of them. And that's, again, especially when you're in their crosshairs anyway.
Here's my thing. As an organization, I would be very much considering stripping because how many other players have concerns that aren't being addressed?
Yeah.
And me, like, if I was a player, do you really want to stay with a group that you go to your doctors over some growth or say just you're having anything? Just think of any kind of medical issue that you go to your doctor for, and if it's serious, they're going to ignore it.
Yep.
And so that would be my concern.
Speaking of really,
is you're actually at a point where you may end up endangering other people's lives because is he the only one with skin cancer right now?
Well, and we kind of talked about it a little bit when we were talking about the drug stuff in basketball. You know, the kind of thing of having these team. Well, no, if you can't trust team doctors, that's my whole idea was all based on. You know what? You got a doctor who takes a Hippocratic oath, and you can trust that. You take that to the bank. This guy is, yes, he works for the team, but he's supposed to take care of everything for me. He takes an oath that he says he's going to take care of me. Therefore, the fact that he, works for the team isn't as big a deal. Well, no, apparently it is a big deal if you're telling guys to ignore cancer. But kind of going on.
Speaking of poorly run organizations, let's jump over to the NCAA.
The NCAA. Okay, we've been through this. There is beauty in the NCAA still. All right, there's college basketball season. Yes, I know there's so much money. I know there's horrible, but there's also amazing stuff that happens in college basketball season. We get amazing. We get Catholic schools that run too far. We get amazing nuns that become national folk heroes. Okay, college basketball is a fantastic thing. All right, but we do have the season that just started, and as soon as I say that, I'm in depression because my college basketball team lost to a team they absolutely should not have lost to.
But who's your team?
GCU, my alma mater, my Lopes, lost to a Division II team by 9 at home. And by the way, at home, we've got a home court that's been, as even a smaller school, our home court advantage has been written about in USA Today, ESPN, many, many articles because we've got that great of a home court atmosphere. We don't lose at home. We lost at home to a Division II team. So I'm upset.
Yeah,
I'm upset. We're playing, I think, Illinois tonight. So, getting killed there probably.
Let's go to a good story. Kent State did the coolest thing. My notes here just crashed. I had his name, but they had the the first. Sorry, I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find his name. It's the very first Division I player who is on the autism spectrum. Played in a game, and he scored. I really want to give this guy a shout out. Kalen Bennett is his name. And first off, he is 6'10", 300 pounds, like big body, and the dude scored a legit point. A lot of times you see the high school uh, where they've got the kid that was the manager and maybe he has a developmental disorder and they let him go out and he jacks threes for about 3 minutes and then he scores and everyone goes, oh yay. No, apparently, and I looked up this kid's story. Apparently his mom and an early coach worked with him a ton, and he's very high functioning. And the dude straight up yanked an offensive rebound, backed a dude down, hit him with a shimmy, and then had a sweet looking post hook and scored. Like, I mean, it was legit. The dude, and so it was a big deal last year when he signed a letter of intent, but he came in and scored, and he was really good.
And the other thing is,
I actually didn't realize he was autistic until I saw it. Like,
yeah,
you didn't think it was one of, like, because usually because it's like no one does anything. They were playing a regular game and he scored.
Well, he is a player on that team.
Yeah.
He is not and that's actually, honestly, that's something I think we need to make sure we still actually look at and recognize, because especially stories like this, we think about, oh no, this is Kent State. Yes, they're a smaller program, but they're not a nobody.
Yeah.
They're actually good. No, he was brought into this team because the coach thinks he is not a story. The coach thinks he can contribute.
Yeah, this kid has legitimately made the team.
Yeah.
Like, he has tried out and made the team, and it looks like he's going to be a good player, a solid player. I'm excited.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic thing. And I just got word, yes, my Lopes are now 0-2. We lost, you know what? We lost by 12 to Illinois. They're not great this year, but at the end of the day, it's still Illinois. So that's disappointing, but that happened. But speaking of major disappointments, one of the number one prospects in college basketball, possibly the first round for number one overall pick, has gone into the news today. We don't have as much information on it because we're still waiting for it. But news broke. I'm going to throw to the guy who's like in that area and let him go through some of the news we do have.
I was legitimately online looking for Memphis Tigers tickets because I wanted to see James Wiseman. And then I get a tweet that says James Wiseman has been ruled ineligible for the entire year because of NCAA recruiting violations. About 30 minutes later, it backed up and it said that the NCAA is just going to investigate and he's allowed to play until they finish their investigation, which is like, I'm pretty sure that's what you should have done to begin with. Maybe investigate before you actually give punishment, because that's kind of a jerk move to just suspend someone with no proof. But anyway, the rumor is, and this has not been verified, but the rumor I'm seeing is his family did move to Memphis about 5 years ago, and the rumor is Penny Hardaway helped pay for it because he's a family friend. Problem is, when they moved to Memphis, Penny Hardaway was not coaching. At all. Like he was not coaching anywhere.
And then
but he moved him into a school district, and then 2 years later he became the coach of James Wiseman's high school. And then James Wiseman committed to Memphis, and then 6 months later Penny Hardaway was the coach at Memphis. So it does look suspicious, for sure.
And another.
Here's my thing. First off, I have a big issue with them telling you who you can or cannot help, because, like, for me, I'm a very generous person, and my friends know it. If they called me and needed help, I would help them the best I can. And if I had the money to help them move to get their kid in a good school so they could go and get into, a good university and stuff, I would do it. That's why you talk about all in college, make connections and, have connections with people so they can help you out so that you can be successful in life. And here you have the NCAA being like, no, all your good connections you need to ignore, even though it's going to be really helpful to your kids because it's unfair to other people. And so that's my first thing. Second of all, they have no evidence, which bothers me because I keep seeing that. Or at least they don't know for sure. And while it looks suspicious, he was not technically employed by you when he did those things. So you can't hold it against the kid.
Well, there's another element here, and this is a thing that kind of get, again, from looking at, yes, Memphis got on the map, but they got on the map by playing fast and loose with the rules. That's how Memphis became a known school in college basketball.
Coach Calipari.
But at the end of the day, they're also still Memphis. They're not a power. And I think this is just kind of a thing whenever it's all pure circumstantial evidence. It's not real evidence, but when the possible number one overall pick, consensus number one overall pick as a freshman is playing at Memphis, you got to wonder, wait, how is this kid not going to Duke, to Florida, to North Carolina, to UCLA, to Arizona, to any of the Blue Bloods? Wait, why is this guy not at – yes, Memphis is a basketball school, but when you start seeing stuff like that, and again, maybe that's even
when a number one guy goes to a
number one school,
to a not Power 5 school, to a non-Power 5 school, it goes suspicious. But let's look at it this way. Look, if I'm Penny Hardaway, and one, I would love to be Penny Hardaway because that would be a lot of money. I went to Memphis.
I just want to be little.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to Memphis. I enjoyed my time at Memphis. All of those things. And then I'm family friends with this group. I am helping my friend because I'm not in coaching. I am helping my friend, and I moved my friend to where I know a good school was, where I'm from. Right? Then all of a sudden, that friend needs that high school where I put this kid that I know needs a coach, and I've already got the degree that lets me coach. Why wouldn't I coach?
Right.
Yeah.
And then the Memphis job opens after that kid commits to Memphis. Why wouldn't I go coach him there?
Well, and on the kid side, as far as why he went to Memphis, like
he'd be emulating his idolized growing up.
No, it is, and it's.
If he's like me, some people too, you like to stay at home near your family.
Yeah.
I like being near family. That's why I stayed in the South when I went to university, because that's where I had family. And I was already a plane ride away and across an ocean from my parents. I was not going to go to school further away from the family that I did have. If he's kind of like that, he may want to stay close to family, and that's okay.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's a there are red flags, but they're at most flags. They're not.
There's no smoking gun.
Yeah, none of them are smoking guns. None of them are straight up evidence. Did you have something, Brian?
Well, I was just gonna interrupt for breaking news. The Utah Jazz just beat the Milwaukee Bucks Bengals with 0.7 seconds left, 103-100. And of course, Giannis fouled out in the fourth like he always does. But the Bucks were down 10 with about a minute and a half to go, came back, tied it, and then there was a traveling call from Middleton, and then Joe Ingles caught the ball in the corner because he's awesome. I mean, the guy's amazing. So just breaking story. We back to our regular schedule.
Well, no, you know what? I think that's a good spot. Let's go ahead and look at
NBA.
We're going to get there, but let's go ahead and just go into the NBA. It's not a bad spot to just kind of move on to the NBA. So, yeah, any other games last week that you saw, you guys wanted to talk about, anything that jumped up? We can get into some other little things we saw, but specific of games, either just like that, where Brian just said of something you saw. That was fun, but
our very own Sean was there live as the Timberwolves needed overtime to beat a G League team. And so because
Who were they playing?
they were playing the Warriors, which right
Okay.
now are so injured they might as well just change the first name to Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And I mean, because half of their rotation should not be an NBA player because they're so injured right now. But anyway, the thing is, the thing that I've seen this year that's been a little shocking to me is Monty Williams is a fantastic coach. Like, he is pushing the Suns way into being competitive based solely on the force of his personality.
Because it's. I mean, honestly, they have. Again, living in Phoenix, not a Suns fan, but living in Phoenix, they've actually got talent. Like they have. Again, they're not a championship team, and I've been saying and operating on. You know what? They might win 30 games. 35 games is the top for this team. I know it's early, and I know we're early in the season, but I might have to adjust that statement.
They can go 500.
They might be. They might be an 8th seed. They might be a 7th seed. They might actually be a good. I mean, they beat an undefeated team, who also just lost the Nuggets. That was going to be my go-to. That was going to be my quick shout out. But they beat an undefeated team. They're playing good basketball. Every now and they're young. Oh, and by the way, their centerpiece, pun intended, is not playing.
That's fair.
So, and he should be. And he should be at this point. At this point, we've already seen another what a suspension for an actual drug is. And so if the masking drug is going to be just the same as an actual drug, that bothers me.
Yeah, but that's the team that they're like, dude, they're actually it's blowing my mind. But I remember one of my coworkers was sitting there and said, "Do you think the Suns actually have a chance against Philadelphia?" And I immediately want to sit there and go, "Of course not." But then I paused and I was like, "No, I think they've actually got a chance." It would not be my lock. It would not have been anything where, if I was a betting person, which I'm absolutely and utterly not, I never would have bet even a donut on that game. Because betting is wrong. But in addition to that, but even if it wasn't wrong, I wouldn't have put a donut on it. But I definitely see that they had a shot at winning, and they had more than a shot. They won. They won that game.
I think something interesting right now, and I know Jonathan will appreciate this, but watching the Mavericks has been really fun. I'm not a Mavericks fan at all, but Luka is the dude is the real freaking deal.
I'm not a Mavericks fan, but my brother's diehard.
I'm sorry, your brother.
But
I am now, so you can talk to me about it.
Yeah,
the amount of joy my brother and my wife have in watching Luka is quite amazing.
I think that once Porzingis can get into a rhythm and once they can get going with that pick and roll, I think the Mavericks could be a 4 or 5 seed for sure in the West. I think that they're that good, and I think that they're one free agency period away from being very, very relevant. And I think Mark Cuban is the owner to get them over the top. He's not afraid to spend money. He's not afraid to make trades. I think that he knows that what he has in Luka. And I think that he's going kind of ready to pull the checkbook out, per se, and say, okay, who can we pair him with? We got Porzingis. Let's go get our big 3. Let's go get somebody else in the offseason. Let's go get Bradley Beal. Let's go do something to make this happen.
They'd have to trade for Beal because Beal just signed an extension. But they're a Bradley Beal, Chris Middleton type away from being very.
Maybe someone that said that he thought maybe that Luka was going to have a sophomore slump. If someone had said that, not that anyone said that or anything, but if someone had said that, maybe they would say that they could possibly be mistaken. But that being said, people are really screaming about him like he should be the MVP. And if he's as good or capable of being as good as I've been told that he's capable of being, he actually really is a major disappointment this year. Because if he's as good as I've been told by people he should be averaging 55 and 20 rebounds a game. That's the impression I've received from certain people who will go nameless. But may
look exactly like me.
They're not, so they're not present, but they may look a lot like someone that's currently here.
Yeah,
if I was going to go based on
that person is known for over exaggerating. So
based on that, I mean, he is still a disappointment because he's not averaging 50.
I will say one more thing that I've noticed is the 5-man lineup that is leading the league in net rating as of this morning is Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Daniel House, PJ Tucker, and Clint Capella. The problem is the player that has the worst net rating of anyone averaging over 15 minutes is Eric Gordon. And they play Eric Gordon more than Daniel House. So
that was the Rockets are interesting. We were talking about what game stood out to us. I think the 159-158 win over the Wizards in regulation. It's like, did we just decide not?
That did happen this week.
Yep.
Listen, here's this box score. It was Harden scored 59, Westbrook scored 17, Capella scored 21, House scored 16, Gordon scored 15, Rivers scored 11. I mean, my goodness. And on the other side, Bradley Beal puts up 46. Harmurcha, I don't know who that is. I haven't looked at him. He scores 23.
Hachimura, yeah.
Yeah, Bertans scores 20. I mean, that I didn't watch the game. I didn't even see the highlights. But looking at that box score, I'm going like, what that's in regulation. That's not a double, triple overtime. That's 159 points in 48 minutes.
How much was scored in the All-Star game last year?
About that.
Yeah, but the All-Star game is always just. They're not.
I think the All-Star game broke 200, didn't it?
Did it?
No.
Like that's what I'm saying. Those are scores in a game when literally it becomes a joke at how little anyone tries on defense. I mean, Steph Curry laid down on defense.
Yeah.
At one point.
Now, the thing about the Wizards and the Rockets are the Wizards and Rockets are number 1 and number 2 in pace.
Yeah,
this year too. So that's part of it. Is both teams are committed to like. D'Antoni made a joke. He said in Phoenix that was 7 seconds or less, in Houston we're 5 seconds or less.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. And so.
And they have the personnel to do it.
They do. The problem is they also have the personnel to play defense, and they don't.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Clint Capella should help your defense, right? Like,
Clint has got a major arm injury. You can even tell when he's shooting free throws, he's got a major shoulder injury. And you can just kind of tell. Rivers is coming off an off-season surgery. Westbrook is a little dinged up. But, again, they should be playing better defense. That's really the only problem. People will point to them having a shooting slump. Okay, yeah, it's a shooting slump from 3, but when you're taking 11 threes a game, you're still making that. You're still making more than taking 6. So, but yeah, that's a good one. Mm-hmm.
So on that, I'm going to ask you guys. I'm going to ask everyone the same question, and I just want a one-word answer before we get into our next subsection here. All right.
Mm-hmm.
One word or one team answer. Don't think about it. Whoever's the first team to come to your mind. All right. Okay, I'm going to start with Brian. Brian, this is all basketball. What team do you hate the most and want to see lose everything?
Boston Celtics.
Boston Celtics. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay, Jonathan. Same question.
Golden State.
Golden State. Even after as bad as they are, you still.
I love it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Amber.
It's the Spurs, but that's every year.
The Spurs. See, I got to think of. Honestly, mine probably is the Lakers, and I'm not just saying that because that's the story.
Yours and about everyone else's, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Lakers are my second one.
Well,
I like to watch them fail.
That was the story we looked at, a map that was put up in editing. If someone might want to put a map up in editing, this would be
we'll work on it.
If we can legally do that. Let's do that.
No, I will check the legality of us using that.
Okay,
map.
But there was a map that was posted up, and basically, America hates the Lakers, and it's a question that I've got is: does America hate the Lakers, especially given how bad the Lakers had been recently? Because I'm gonna be honest, I didn't hate the Lakers. That means I may have hated players on the Lakers. That's different, especially in the NBA when you have favorite players. And that's what you're actually rooting for as players. But I didn't hate the Lakers a couple years ago. But
because they weren't relevant.
Well, they weren't. Yeah, weren't relevant. So, is it that people hate the Lakers, or is it that people hate LeBron?
Oh, I think it's people hate the Lakers. I grew up hating the Lakers. Of course, I was a Rockets fan. Of course, I was a Rockets fan. It's not LeBron. People hated LeBron because he's good. People hate the Lakers because they're the Lakers. Like,
well, I'm gonna take that back. Some people are going to hate the Lakers because LeBron. Okay, but there are people like my uncles and stuff who hate the Lakers, and they've hated them before LeBron was the thing on the Lakers. They just don't want the Lakers. So there's other stuff going on there too.
Yeah,
I think the telling thing about that graphic though was that LA was the most hated team in their own state. The Clippers were. The Clippers were the most hated team in California.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you're a Lakers fan, you probably do hate the Clippers the most.
But the Lakers are the equivalent to the Patriots in the NFL. If you're not a Patriot fan, you hate the Patriots.
No, they're the Cowboys.
Not a well, whatever. That's fair. We could go that route too. But
Remember,
it's one of
the Patriots are successful.
It's a very
the Lakers are the second most successful
too,
but not recently.
No, but I'm just saying overall, generally as a franchise, you're either a Laker fan or you really don't like the Lakers. Nobody's going, I hate the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I can't stand them. Like, nobody says that, right? Because they're not relevant.
Because no one cares.
Okay,
I absolutely hate the New Orleans Pelicans. Like, with a burning passion. I can't stand them. No, they don't do that. You either, because they're not as polarizing as the Lakers are that way, the Celtics are that way. Maybe not recently, but the Knicks were that way for a long time.
The Yankees,
the Red Sox. Yeah.
So here's the thing with that. People still hate the Cowboys, mostly because they were dominant in the.
We don't hate the Cowboys. We hate Cowboys fans.
Yes, and amen. I don't.
Yes, that hurts a little bit.
As I said,
I'm a nice person.
Yeah, but most of the fans are not. Have you ever lived in Dallas and had to listen to sports talk radio and listen to these delusional fan base call in? Hey, we're 4-12, but here's the mathematical way we'll make the playoff. No, dude, go home.
Yes, I have.
I
would
argue Phillies fans.
But I've also been around some fans that like yelled at me because I didn't root for their team. So I have kind of I've never gotten yelled at by a Cowboy fan.
No, they were good at one point and they had bandwagon fans. And then those bandwagon fans had kids who have absolutely no knowledge of any being good, but they're like, oh no, we're Cowboys and the Cowboys are always good. No. We get sick and tired of the Cowboys always being mentioned on sports radio and national sports talk shows when they're not any good and they're not relevant. We get sick and tired of people saying the Cowboys are winning it all this year or the Cowboys going to win it all as a segment on ESPN, and when you're like, they're awful.
Zeke holds out and Melvin Gordon holds out, and we heard more about Zeke's holdout a million times more than we ever did Melvin because it's all about
the Chargers shouldn't exist.
That's fair
And
too.
Melvin's not nearly as good as Zeke.
Different discussion, different podcast. But
Melvin's not
pulling
a
it
top
back
5
into pulling it back into the NBA. There's that. But so one thing that I think makes people hate certain teams is the way their coaches behave stuff. So I don't know if it existed before Popovich, but Popovich I think was the first one that got famous for it. I'll also argue there was a time when I liked Popovich's act. I kind of liked it. I kind of was a fan of it. It's gotten old. I'm officially done with it. You're actually
yes.
You're not trolling. You're not being clever and fun anymore. You're actually just being a jerk. That being said, I do laugh. So we're talking about load management. I do laugh when teams do load management on. They deliberately do it on nationally televised games. That does make me laugh, but that's also because in some ways I like anarchy, and that's kind of what it is. Is it's a coach saying, "I don't care about the money that I'm not seeing." That says no, we're going to rest players on those things. But load management is something that's come up. Thoughts on that? We had Kawhi sit out early for a rest after 7 games.
I'm torn on this because if I'm an NBA coach or GM, my job is to win a championship. My job is not to win 70 regular season games. Okay? Yeah. So with that being said, we also have to understand that sports are an entertainment business. And as a fan, if I go to LA, if I fly from Milwaukee to LA to watch the Bucks and Clippers play and Giannis sits, I'm going to be upset. And here's the hard part. Not scheduled rest days. These are impromptu rest days. So it's not like Kawhi comes out with his schedule that says, hey, listen, here are the games I'm taking off. So as fans, we know, hey, this is not going to be as a marquee game as it could be. So I'm going to skip this one. It's 2 days before. Oh, Kawhi's not playing. And now my 7-year-old kid who wanted his favorite player in the world can't go see him. But we got to go to this game because the tickets are bought. So I see both sides of it. And honestly, I wish I had a stronger opinion, but I'm really, really torn because I do want my team to win championships. And if that means resting my star player 20 games a season, go for it. But as a business and as an entertainment, and as the NBA, as a Silver and as the owners, I'd probably be pretty mad, pretty upset.
He could have sat last night against a crappy Blazers team. Right. I'm cool with you saying he needs to sit because he's listed in the league injury report as rehabbing a torn patellar tendon.
Right.
That's cool. He can rehab. That. That's fine. He's okay to miss games, but he could have sat against the crappy team and actually played against the good team.
Right. Here's the thing, though, is
I also think didn't they announce that he wasn't hurt?
So they got fined because they.
That's my issue. Is you told he's going to play, he's not hurt, and then you pull him because he's hurt. So me as a fan would be frustrated because from your own lips you said he was healthy. So I bought tickets to a game that he should play because he's healthy, and then you're not there. I'm not mad when I go and I wanted to see Kevin Durant and he got hurt and so he's not. But I am mad when someone said, oh yeah, he's perfectly fine, and I buy tickets. And then he's not playing because they lied.
And here's the bigger deal. If it's going to be a nationally televised game, too.
That's
the big deal. Wednesday night was a nationally...
I do laugh.
Wednesday night was a nationally televised game.
Yes.
And it was against the big anointed team that's already supposed to win the Eastern Conference, and that's who the Clippers are supposed to have to face. Everyone wanted to see that matchup, and Doc Rivers purposely did it to be a jerk. They held him out to be a jerk.
Well,
there's some competitive element to it. I mean, as you said, it's the team they're likely going to see there, so let's limit their exposure to our full team.
I get I was about to go there. I get the strategic thing of that. One, it's an interconference game. It's not going to hurt it's not going to hurt their seeding as much as if they were to lose that game to a Western Conference team.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you figure it. Okay, let's sit them against a good team because there's a good chance we probably lose that game anyways. Now, in hindsight, they only lost by 5 and don't have Paul George or Kawhi Leonard on the floor. And that's the best team in the East. So you could make an argument the other way. But I understand what they're doing, but I think there needs to be a compromise or something in the middle that says, hey, either A, there needs to be some qualifications around sitting a player, can't be a nationally televised game. Can't be. I don't know.
There are rules about it. If he hadn't had his patella tendon injury listed in the league injury report, they couldn't have done it.
Right.
But
even when they're playing Kawhi, they're not playing him 40 minutes a game. He's on load management every night.
Something that should work into a CBA, and I think this could be interesting. For a player, this is the thing, and I'm going to bring up another point. I think it goes off. I wasn't going to go here, but we've talked about it in our chats off air a little bit, and I'll go here eventually. But putting a minutes cap on players in the regular season, so not total, not a total, but a weekly minutes cap or a minutes cap per game. So you've got this week you've got 5 games, which means any given player can only play a total of, I'm trying to think of a certain total of minutes.
What if we went another way and said you had to use your whole 12-man rotation, and you had the minimum? Everybody has to play, and the minimum that they have to play is 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever, requiring kind of on the other side.
Okay, Chairman Mao.
I don't know.
If you suck, I don't want to have to play you.
That's fair. I get that.
That means you got to make sure you play good. That means you got to do a better job on your salary management, that you're not overpaying everyone. No, right. If the Lakers had to use their entire bench, that would be funny because we spent all of our money on 6 guys. What?
Yeah. Could you imagine the Warriors right now having to go to play 10, 11, 12?
I don't think they have enough healthy people to do that.
But the other element I was going to go through, and this, like I said, we've talked about it someone in our chats. We keep being told that, rest is this big. These guys aren't getting rest. These guys aren't getting enough rest. There was a statement made by a player, I don't remember who it was, towards the beginning of the season, where he said that lack of rest.
Tobias Harris.
Was it Tobias Harris? Was going to be the NBA's concussion lawsuit in the next 20 years. So we hear all of that, but then we also hear stories. Should I bring up the Harden story?
Someone did a math thing that I can't remember. I can't remember how much it was, but it was basically if the city had X amount of strip clubs per capita,
the rating, the Uber, or not the Uber, the
Yelp reviews of
Yelp reviews, good strip club towns with good strip clubs, according to Yelp or whatever, Harden plays poorly in.
And it's like 25% less production.
And it almost is all the time. Too.
Yeah. So I've been saying this for the past 3 years as a Rockets fan. Atlanta, Brooklyn, and Miami are automatic losses every time we visit. But I've been saying it for 3 years.
And it's because, he's out till 3 o'clock there. And I know I brought that, and I wasn't sure if we, bring up that specific story. But you hear stories all the time of these players being out till 3 o'clock in the morning. Who was it last year? Yeah, there was a police brutality thing that was wrong and incorrect. A police made a mistake. But he was still out at 3 o'clock in the morning. What were you doing out at 3 o'clock in the morning during season?
Well, and I think at some point that's okay, my job requires me to do certain things and to be functioning to a certain extent. And so part of their job requirement, because they give me requirements, part of their job requirement should be to make sure that they get X amount of sleep. And you're not drunk the night before. Because trust me, if they're out and they're drinking and they're partying, they are not their best selves when they get on that basketball court. There's just no way.
But their egos are so big. They're like, well, they feel like they're invincible and they can do whatever they want.
And that goes to the thing. I don't want to hear about load management and we need rest when I see you out at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
no, you don't get to complain about it. That is true. You should be the one complaining about it.
If you want to go to strip clubs and if you want to, however you want to live your life, whatever. Like in the off season, you do you, man. Like, but while you're in season, like, that's why. Here's the thing: I'm a homer for Milwaukee. I've been a Bucks fan my whole life, so I'm not on the bandwagon. But like having somebody like Giannis who talks about I don't want to take time off, and in his off days, like they had to shut him out of the gym during the regular season, and guess what he did? He found a YMCA to get shots up.
Yeah.
I want that guy on my team, not the guy that's, making it rain at 3 a.m.
Well,
there's a reason.
You have off days where they can go and party or do whatever they want, where it's fine. Just don't do it right before a game. You have the off days
there's a reason. There is a reason that Tim Duncan has 5 championship rings, and someone like Steven Jackson has 1.
Well, and that's go through, and I know I buried him a little earlier. No, that's because fair. I talked about Popovich. No, that's a Popovich thing. Like Popovich don't play that game. Popovich says you're here for a job. I pay you a lot of money. That's the other thing. Oh, you're limiting the things. No, they get paid a lot of money, and when you get paid a lot of money like that, there's certain things you can't do.
Yep.
Yeah. So and then there's people who take it seriously. My favorite organization outside of like from the way they're set up in the NBA is Miami. Miami doesn't play. They realize the stuff that goes on in their city, and they don't play. Miami players, if your BMI is out of weight, they can fine you if your BMI is wrong.
This is why I don't think that moving the Raiders to Vegas is a great idea. Let's give these signing bonuses to these 22, 23-year-old kids and then drop them in the middle of Vegas where they're expected now first of all, most of them, a lot of them come from poverty situations. They've never had this much money before. And now you're in the gambling and prostitution capital of the United States. It's like, oh, what could possibly go wrong?
Actually, prostitution is illegal in city limits of Vegas.
Yes. There are a lot of things that are illegal.
It should be required for them to have, they should be required to have a financial advisor when they first come in. Because I personally, if you gave me, we're going to pay you just even $100K this year, I would not know what to do with it.
Right.
I have no idea because I've never been in a situation where I've had enough money to where, you can really invest because you can do that with that.
Right.
And so when these kids are making a lot of money and they're used to being on welfare.
Yeah.
They don't even know
not to
how to do stuff because they've just been focused their whole lives on making sure they have food and they don't starve. And now you're telling them you could buy a house, you can do this, you can do whatever you want, and you actually have the money for it. So they really need a financial advisor to be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're making a lot, but this much is what's going to go to taxes. This much should go to your retirement. And hey, how about we don't buy that house, but let's buy this house. It's still nice, but it's, not as fancy, but you can afford right now and build up to that and show them
if you get drafted by San Francisco, realize you're still going to be on welfare.
Yes. That's yeah. Go that note. Yeah. So what did we see? That there's a guy who's playing. Now, granted, he's a lower guy, but he's starting for the Warriors.
Kai Boatman.
He's starting for the Warriors now. Technically, he is under. He qualifies for government assistance in San Francisco.
That's insane.
Because the San Francisco economy is awful.
It's horrible.
Well, no, it's the housing market. Everything is just insane. On that note, I think we're going to go ahead and shut her down for the time being. On that,
we're going to go on load management.
Yeah. So yeah, the load management just kind of goes through, and it's crazy. We'll see what ends up happening. It's going to be entertaining to see what ends up. How it goes through in a statement I made earlier about Silver runs away from conflict, and I think he's a coward. And I think he's one of the worst. I can't say he's one of the worst. Every commissioner in all of the sports leagues is horrible, and this is how he is horrible. Goodell at least is not a coward. I don't believe Goodell's a coward. He's got other problems.
Opposite. Yeah.
But Silver is an absolute coward, so we will see what happens if this, because eventually there are going to be two sides that are going to come at him hard, and he's going to actually have to do a job, which will be interesting. Anyway, on that note, good night, everybody. Have a good one. Enjoy. Like, share, subscribe. Again, have us on and mute in the background. Just at least listen. I mean, that's fine too. So it gets us listens on YouTube. So
wait, hold on. How are they going to mute us and listen to us?
Just continue working and continue everything, and just have it on.
Spotify,
iTunes, and it still counts.
YouTube.
Yeah.
They don't know if your volume's on or not. So.
That's fair.
Anyway,
if you have a long commute, we might make you laugh a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
See you guys next week.